Suspense. The Black Cat by Ruskin Bond. Before the cat came, of course, there had to be a broomstick. In the bazaar of one of our hill stations is an old junk shop, dirty, dingy, and dark, in which I often potter about looking for old books or Victorian bric-a-brac. Sometimes one comes across useful household items, but I do not usually notice these. I was, however, attracted to an old but well-preserved broom standing in a corner of the shop. A long-handled broom was just what I needed. I had no servant to sweep out the rooms of my cottage, and I did not enjoy bending over double when using the common shorthanded charu. The old broom was priced at 10 rupees. I haggled with the shopkeeper and got it for 5. It was a strong broom full of character, and I used it to good effect almost every morning. And there the story might have ended or would never have begun if I had not found the large black cat sitting on the garden wall. The black cat had bright yellow eyes, and it gave me a long, penetrating look, as though it were summing up my possibilities as an exploitable human. Though it meowed once or twice, I paid no attention. I did not care much for cats, but when I went indoors, I found that the cat had followed and begun scratching at the pantry door. It must be hungry, I thought, and gave it some milk. The cat lapped up the milk, purring deeply all the while, then sprang up on a cupboard and made itself comfortable. Well, for several days there was no getting rid of that cat. It seemed completely at home and merely tolerated my presence in the house. It was more interested in my broom than in me, and would dance and skittle around the broom whenever I was sweeping the rooms. And when the broom was resting against the wall, the cat would side up to it, rubbing itself against the handle and purring loudly. A cat and a broomstick, the combination was suggestive, full of possibilities. The cottage was old, almost 100 years old, and I wondered about the kind of tenants it might have had during these long years. I had been in the cottage only for a year, and though it stood alone in the midst of a forest of Himalayan oaks, I had never encountered any ghost or spirits. Miss Bellows came to see me in the middle of July. I heard the tapping of a walking stick on the rocking path outside the cottage, a tapping which stopped near the gate. "Mr. Bond," called an imperious voice, "are you at home?" I had been doing some gardening and looked up to find an elderly, straight-backed Englishwoman peering at me over the gate. "Good evening," I said, dropping my hoe. "I believe you have my cat," said Miss Bellows. Though I had not met the lady before, I knew her by name and reputation. She was the oldest resident in the hill station. "I do have a cat," I said, "though it's probably more correct to say that the cat has me. If it's your cat, you're welcome to it. Why don't you come in while I look for her?" Miss Bellows stepped in. She wore a rather old-fashioned black dress, and her ancient but strong walnut stick had 2 or 3 curves in it, and a knob instead of a handle. She made herself comfortable in an armchair while I went in search of the cat. But the cat was on one of her mysterious absences, and though I called for her in my most persuasive manner, she did not respond. I knew she was probably quite near, but cats are like that, perverse, obstinate creatures. When finally I returned to the sitting room, there was a cat curled up on Miss Bellows' lap. "Well, you've got her, I see. Would you like some tea before you go?" "No, thank you," said Miss Bellows. "I don't drink tea." Something stronger, perhaps? A little brandy? She looked up at me rather sharply. Disconcerted, I hastened to add, "Not that I drink much, you know. I keep a little in the house for emergencies. It helps ward off colds and things. It's particularly good for, for colds," I finished lamely. "I see your kettle's boiling," she said. "Can I have some hot water?" Hot water? Certainly. I was a little puzzled, but I did not want to antagonize Miss Bellows at our first meeting. "Thank you, and a glass." She took the glass, and I went to get the kettle. From the pocket of her voluminous dress, she extracted 2 small packets, similar to those containing chemist's powders. Opening both packets, she poured first a purple powder and then a crimson powder into the glass. Nothing happened. "Now the water, please," she said. "It's boiling hot." Never mind. I poured boiling water into a glass, and there was a terrific fizzing and bubbling as the frothy stuff rose to the rim. It gave off a horrible stench. The potion was so hot that I thought it would crack the glass. But before this could happen, Miss Bellows put it to her lips and drained the contents. "I think I'll be going now," she said, putting the glass down and smacking her lips. The cat, tail in the air, voiced its agreement. Said Miss Bellows, "I'm much obliged to you, young man." "Don't mention it," I said humbly. "Always at your service." She gave me her thin, bony hand and held mine in an icy grip. I saw Miss Bellows and the black cat to the gate and returned pensively to my sitting room. Living alone was beginning to tell on my nerves and imagination. I made a half-hearted attempt to laugh at my fancies, but the laugh stuck in my throat. I couldn't help noticing that the broom was missing from its corner. I dashed out of the cottage and looked up and down the path. There was no one to be seen. In the gathering darkness, I could hear Miss Bellow's laughter, followed by a snatch of song. With the darkness round me growing, and the moon behind my hat, you will soon have trouble knowing which is which and which is cat. Something whirred overhead like a Diwali rocket. I looked up and saw them silhouetted against the rising moon. Miss Bellows and her cat were riding away on my broomstick.